Welcome to my next class as part of the digital fabrication series. Today we are going to use a tool called Gravit Designer to make a keychain for laser cutting. So the tool that we're going to use is called Gravit. It's available on the website above here, and you'll have gotten a link to that in your Google Classroom. And this is a really great tool for creating files for laser cutting for the makerspace. So this is a free tool. There is a premium version, but the free version does plenty that you need. Does pretty much everything that you're going to need for makerspace and school use. So it's really great for that. And not only is it free, but it's also something that's cloud-based. So students that are using Chromebooks can use this as well. So it's a really good tool that you can teach your students as well from this too. And there are better programs to use for this, like Adobe Illustrator, but Gravit is good enough for our uses for making things for laser cutting, and it's more than sufficient for anything that you would want to make in the classroom. So we are going to get started. And what we're going to do is, I made this keychain previously for the makerspace, and so we're going to kind of follow along with making this. You do not have to make this. I'm just going to use this as my reference image for where we are starting from. And without further ado, let's get started. So we're going to open up our Gravit screen here, like you see here. It's going to give you a few options of what to do to sort of quick start from. We're just going to pick this print selection here, and we want to use US letter portrait. That's going to be big enough for what we want to make. So let's look at our reference image and see where we want to get started from. I think what I want to do is I want to make this outline that's going to be a cut here, this sort of lozenge shape. So we're going to do that first. So how we're going to do that is we're going to go into this shape tool here, and we're going to go to polygon. It's not giving us an option here to select how many sides it is, but we're just going to drag and see what we do. Okay, we've got a hexagon here. That's about what I want to start with. And it gives us what you want to do is you just select it and you can sort of spin it around. It's going to give you an equally sided hexagon to start with, and we're going to be able to transform that. So I'm going to make it so it looks like it's about even top and bottom where it's completely level to the base. I'm just going to say okay and unclick. Cool, so we've got this even-sided hexagon here. I know that I want my keychain to be about 1.5 inches wide and 3 inches tall. You can kind of play around with your proportions. You don't have to follow exactly along with what I want to do. We're just starting out with the exterior shape, and I'm kind of making this sort of like lozenge shape here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to distort this, and you can either distort it by dragging, clicking one of these handles and dragging. And I'm going to hit undo. So on a Windows computer, that's Control Z. On a Mac, it's Command Z. I'm using a Mac. Okay, I'm just going to hit undo. If you want to drag to resize something evenly, you hit Shift and select something from any of these points and then drag here. So Shift drag. I don't need to do that, but what I'm going to do to resize it is I'm going to go over to this side over here. I'm going to resize it from the size screen over here. So I want to make sure that this is selected to not keep the ratio. When it looks like this, where there's no little lock in the middle, that's how you want it to be to not keep the ratio. So we want the width to be about 1.5 inches, and the height's going to be about 3 inches. So that looks pretty close to me. We want to get those curved edges like we see here in this. We might not get it exactly the same, but how we're going to do that, we're going to select on the shape again. Under this appearance bar, we're going to expand that. We're going to go over to corner. This is going to increase the radius of our corners. So if you want to make it more of like an oval shape, you would increase that all the way. Slightly increasing the corners is here. Let's zoom in a little bit just to see how things are looking. Okay, so I think I want it actually to be a little thinner at this point. Let's make it about 1.25 inches wide. Okay, and here we go. I figured out where we can select how many shapes our polygon's going to have here. So let's just make a new polygon just to show. And over here on this points here, that's where we can change the shape of our polygon. So if you want it to mean like an octagon here, that's where you're going to do that. So if it doesn't bring up a hexagon, you do want a hexagon, just put in 6 there and go from there. So, oops, let's zoom out and delete whatever that was that I just made. There we go. Okay, let's go back to where we were, and we're going to zoom in again. Okay. So just for the sake of making it a little easier to work with, we want to make the border. We're going to expand this border menu. I'm going to give it a border of about 1 point, and we're going to change the color just so we know it's something different. We're going to make it purple. And I want to remove the fill, it'll make it easier if the fill is clear for right now. Okay, so I think I'm pretty happy with this shape. Here we go. So I'm reducing the corner radius just a little bit. Okay, and I am pretty happy with that. Okay, let's go back to this. So we wanted to say Drew Makerspace on it. So we're going to go in here and we're going to add our text first. I'm going to go over and click on this text button here. We're just going to begin typing. I want it to say Drew in all capital letters, Makerspace. So it's going to give you this sort of left align here with just a basic font. I want to go into Appearance and select Center Align. I want to look at what different fonts we have here. Now the original file that I made this in Adobe Illustrator, so I had more fonts available that I had saved on my computer. So you might not have all of the fonts that you might see in this tutorial from this image here in Gravit, because it's kind of based on what Gravit has available. So I'm going to go play around with what these fonts are here. And while you're working, feel free to pick whatever you like. I want something that is like a Gothic style font, which is sort of like a, like a newspaper headline kind of a font. But I kind of like this one, this Unica one. Okay, I'm back here. Okay, I made Drew a little bit bigger and Makerspace a little bit smaller because it's a wider word. So let's see if I can change the size of just that. Yep, there we go. Okay, and so right now it's 12-point font, other one's 20. Let's increase it just a little bit to 14. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. Okay, and we've got this selected here. We're just going to leave this off to the side here for now. Okay, and the next thing we want to do is we want to bring in this little eagle logo. So I'm going to bring in an eagle logo that I made previously that I have saved on my computer. You can bring in any kind of graphic that you want. There is a great website called Noun Project. And they have free icons. Most of these have a Creative Commons license, so don't use this for commercial purposes, but you can use these for educational use. And this is also a great tool for just presentations as well for the classroom. But these are all in the vector format that's great for laser cutting. So you can select something that you want here, and maybe this is what you want to use for your tutorial. So this is a really great tool. It's free to use. Some of the icons will have a charge, but the vast majority of them are free. And just look at the licensing that goes around with each font, with each icon, and it'll show you kind of some detail of it here with these Creative Commons licenses. And if you sort of scroll over it, it'll give you the name of the creator and how you should credit it if you're using it. Okay, so let's go back to Gravit. I'm going to import this little file that I made already. So I'm going to go over to Import, Place Image. And if you download something from another source, this is going to be the same way that you do that as well. Okay, so I'm going to bring in this here, this file I made, the Drew Eagle. I'm going to import that. Let me just make sure I imported the right one. Here we go. This is the correct one I wanted to import. There we go. So let's just select on this other one and delete it. Okay, so to show you how I did that again, I went over to File, Import, and then Place Image. Okay, and then this is also saved in this vector format that we're using. So what we're going to do is we're going to resize this, because right now it's a little bit too wide. I'm going to select this from any of these points here until the little arrow comes up. I'm going to hit the Shift key and drag it in until it's about the size I want. I'm going to place it over my keychain and bring it down. Okay, there we go. That's about the size of the original. Looks pretty good. We're just going to leave that there for now. I'm going to drag this over here, see if we need to make any changes to the size. That looks pretty good for right now. You might notice everything's a little bit off center. We're going to fix that later. Right now we're just not going to worry about that. Okay. And then the last thing is we have this little sort of fake postage thing here that I made where it says Maker's Gonna Make, because that's sort of the motto of our makerspace. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here and I'm going to make a circle. So go into this ellipse tool. Okay. Go back to shape, select ellipse. You want to make a circle. Just sort of freehand it. And then with size, that's where we're going to make it a circle. Make sure that it's got the same correct proportions. So right now I just put 1 by 1. That's 1 inch by 1 inch. So you can make it any size you want, and then you can resize it from there. Okay, and I'm going to go back over to these borders. Expand that. And I just want to make that black for right now so that I can see that contrast there of that line. And I want to remove this fill as well. There we go. Okay. So I want to make a second interior circle. I'm going to make that interior circle next as this sort of fake postage stamp here. And I'm just going to do right click. Actually, I don't see copy there. Okay, so go to edit, copy. Okay, and you see that thing there. Okay, so we're going to go Control C. Here we go, and then Control V to paste. So now you see we've got 2 circles. We're going to resize the circle so it's a little bit smaller. It looks pretty good. Let's see how we're happy with that. Now I'm going to show you how you're going to align things. So we're going to select both of these. Then we're going to go to this Align Center. And then this other Align Middle here. There you go. We've got 2 concentric circles. I'm not quite happy with this. So I'm going to expand it just a little bit. So I'm going to hit Shift and then Alt or Option. And that leaves the center point as the same. Okay, so I'm a little happier with that. Okay, so we want to make this text that follows along on a circle. So how we're going to do that, we're going to take one of our circles. We're going to do the same thing where we just copy and paste. Then we're going to go to this Create Text on Path tool. There we go. I'm going to hit Control A, select everything. I'm going to say Makers. I think I want to make this a little bit bolder. So I'm going to hit Control A to select everything and make it bold because this is going to be kind of small. Okay, it's a little bigger than I want it to be. That's fine for right now. I get like 9 point. Let's rotate this so that it's in the position that we want it. Okay, and I'm pretty happy with that for right now. So then we're gonna copy that. I don't know why it just gave me that error. Okay, we're gonna copy this. And that didn't work. Okay, so we're gonna take that circle again. We're gonna just copy a circle, paste it, bring it over. Okay, we're gonna go back to selecting this text tool. Try to put the text on the path. Okay. Oh no, what just happened? Okay. Okay, so I went back over here and I selected this. I'm not really sure what went on there, but I removed the line from that, and so this is going to be basically where it would sit there. We still need to rotate a little bit so it would be in the center. I'm going to resize this so it sort of roughly fits in there. Looks like with the way it's transforming it, it's keeping the font size the same but the circle a little smaller, which is different than how I'm normally used to working with. So I'm just going to reduce this font size down to about 6 points. There we go. Okay. I'm going to resize this so it see it in the circle, how it looks. And this is the part you don't really need to follow along with me. You can just sort of play around. Okay, so I'm going to make my font a little bit bigger. So feel free to just play around right now to see how you want it to fit. You don't even need to do this step, but I wanted to put a little fake stamp in mine. Let's increase the size to 8 points. Just want to select that there. I do want to resize it just a little bit more, so I'm going to hit Shift and drag it in. I'm pretty happy with that. Just rotate that around a little. Let's make sure it's center. I'm just using the arrow keys to move everything around. And I just realized I used the wrong font. I was using Unica 1 over here. Here I have Open Sans. So I'm going to make sure, select this, go back and select that same font that I was using earlier. Oh, we don't have a bold here. You know what, I'm going to keep it at Open Sans. So, you know, this is part where you just play around. You don't have to make this little postage stamp thing like I am. But if you want to, you can. Okay, and pretty happy with that so far. So I'm going to select this again. I'm going to select, remove that border. There we go. Okay, now what I want to do is I have my text. I'm pretty happy with it. I want to right click on it and I want to create convert to path. So this, what this does is this makes your text a series of vectors of points here. So we won't be able to edit it after you do that. So it's saving it as a series of points like the rest of our file rather than text. And this saves it in a format that the laser cutter is able to read. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that there. Let's unselect it. Okay, and then we're going to make another text, play around with this as well. So you sometimes just doesn't select right. I want to say make. I want it to be this Open Sans bold. I think we had it in 8-point font, 7 or 8. Select it. Zoom in some, if that helps you out. And you can also go into this appearance and change how you want your text to look. I want this to be on the inside here. See how does this look over here? This is just something that you're gonna have to play around with as well. There we go. Okay, we've got it the right way. There we go. Sorry, that took a minute. Oh no. Okay, so let's look over here. This isn't something that's really exact here because, you know, it's how you make it how you want to make it. Let's look at these over here, make sure they're about the same size. I think we had made that 7-point. I'd have to go back and look at the video to remember that. Let's make these 7-point. Okay, there we go. That looks pretty good. Zoom back out. Rotate this as needed. And okay, pretty happy with that. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to go back over here on this border, move my border. I'm going to select that circle actually and remove the border. There we go. I'm pretty happy with that stamp. I'm going to do the same thing, convert to path. And we're done with our little postage stamp. Now this part was completely optional, so if you don't want to do this part, you don't have to. There we go. So we've got our little postage stamp here. And we're gonna right click all these and group these together so that these all stay the same. Actually, where did the group go? Here we go, group selection. You can see that the shortcut here, it's a little different than Illustrator, which I'm more used to using. So it says Apple key G or Control G. I'm just gonna group these all together so that whenever we click on it, they all move together. And we're gonna resize this. This to be a little smaller. Let's look at our original. A little smaller there. Okay, and I'm looking at back at the original, we have these little details. These are optional here to add this, and we also have the hole that's marked in here for our keychain. Okay, so we want to make, the next part we're going to do is we're going to make that hole for the keychain. So we're going to do the same thing to make a circle that we've been doing. Select on this polygon tool, the shape tool, create an ellipse. Make sure that it's a circle by making the width and the height even. And selecting it, dragging it into the size you want it to be. I know from doing this in the past that you want it to be about 1/4 inch. I'm just going to go over here and select that. That looks a little big proportionally, so let's make it just a little bit smaller. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that. We're going to go back over here to our borders and our fills. So we're going to add the border and remove the fill. There we go. Okay, so we're pretty happy with this. So for what we want to do for now, I want to select all these components, go over to align. There we go. And we're going to hit that align center. Make sure everything's aligned in the middle. Now you don't have to be following the same thing that I'm doing because you can make whatever you want. But I'm making one for the makerspace. Okay, this looks pretty good so far. So the reason why I like making keychains is it's a great project that's easy to personalize. So if you want to make something, you know, for your house, say your kid's getting a new car, you know, keychains are a fun gift to give. They're also a great housewarming present. So I like keychains. It's a good project that gives you all of the basics for laser cutting as well. So that's also why I like starting with this. I didn't just pick this project randomly. Okay, so we've got our exterior shape. This is where we're going to cut the outside of our keychain. We've got this circle that's also going to be a cut line. This is the inside cut. We have our text and our graphic here. So we've got these two graphics, one we imported, one we made, and we got some text that we added. Okay, and then let's add those little details so it really does look like a vintage hotel keychain. Okay, what we're going to do is we're just going to do lines. We can select this angle here to be 0 degrees. What I'm just going to do is I'm going to copy this. Make 3 lines. There we go. Probably want to space them about evenly. You can go over, if you want to make sure the position is exactly even, you can go over back to this position tool over here. I'm just going to eyeball it. Okay, and then I want to make them so they're staggered so they kind of go along with the shape of this. I'm going to select, I'm going to hit Shift, I'm going to hit Option to keep that center point the same. Oh, that didn't work. Okay, so we're just going to expand one, expand the second one. Then we're going to select all of these like we did before and align them just like that. There we go. I'm pretty happy with that. This is just an optional detail. So yeah, so while I do this, you could use this time to either pause the video and, you know, do what you want, or you can keep following along. I'm going to copy this and also move this to the top here as well. And this is your time to sort of, you know, look at everything, decide what details you want to add or remove, if you want to make it say something else, if you want this exterior shape to be a little bit different. I'm going to group these all together as well, like I did earlier. So I just hit Command G. I'm going to copy that all, copy, and then paste. And then I want to rotate that 90 degrees. Nope, 180 degrees. And you can use these rotate tools up here. Okay, and putting that there. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with my keychain so far. Just gonna make sure everything is aligned in the center. Okay, and it looks good so far. So this is, I'll give you this time to pause the video if you want, and make sure everything looks good. And then we are going to go into how to change our lines so that we know we can break everything down by function. Okay, so to do that, we know that this exterior line here is a line that we want to cut. We know that this is a line that we want to cut as well. For what I want to do is I want to engrave the text, I want to engrave this eagle, and I want to engrave this little postage stamp here. So to do that, separate that, I also want to engrave these lines here as well, these little detail lines. So we have a cut, we have an engrave. Actually, I just want to draw these lines on here as like a thin engrave. So I know that I have at least 3 different functions here with a cut, an engrave, and just a scored draw line. So I need to make all of those things separate colors so that when we bring it to the laser cutter, it knows that those things need to be separate. So I'm going to select this here. I'm going to select this as well. I'm going to make sure that they're the same color. So I'm going to use this eyedropper tool. Select that. Okay, that didn't quite do what I wanted it to do. So remove that border, so just make sure it's that purple fill. Okay. Hold on, I did something I didn't quite want it to do. Okay. Okay, so you want to select the eyedropper tool on just on the border to make them the same. So we have them the same for now. Okay, so we know that this pink is an engrave, so we want to make sure that this is going to be that same as well. Actually, we want the text to be an engrave, but we want this exterior part to just sort of be drawn. So let's make this a different color. Let's just make this green for the sake of making it easy. One of the pre-selected colors. We want these to just be drawn lines as well. So we'll select these. You may need to ungroup them to change the color. So it looks like you got to do. I just ungrouped the selection. Sometimes I needed to hit it twice. Okay, so we're going to go to this border here. We're going to select this so that they're all the same. I'm going to zoom out. I'm going to select these again, ungroup them. Okay, so we have all of our lines that we just want to draw. Those are all the same color. Now we're going to make sure that all of our engraved lines are the same. If you look at this here, close up on the eagle, you'll see that the eagle is made up of a compound path that was brought in. If you bring in something from the noun project, it's probably going to look something similar. So instead of one line, like these, the green lines we made were, these are two lines that are grouped together. That's sort of something that's a little bit more advanced. But if you bring in any sort of graphics, they might be grouped like that. So I know from working with this in the past that, so where we made this here, where it was the border color, we want to make this so it's the fill color. The text here is like that as well. So when you change your text around, you're going to do that. That's going to be where the lines are on the outside. So you want to change the border color for that. So what we're going to do, okay, we need to make sure that we convert this text to path, which I thought we'd already done. Okay, so we want to select both of these. That same thing, where we take this eyedropper tool, select this here. Select, click off, there we go. There we go. So now we have all the engraved lines that are going to be the same. We want to do this here with this text as well. I don't think that we created this, so we want to make sure all of our text is converted to path. We're going to convert this to a path, and we're going to follow this as well. Use that eyedropper tool again. Select the pink. Here we go. Now, in thinking about this, so we've made all of our cut lines purple, but I want these two cut lines to cut at different times. I want this interior to cut before the exterior does. It's just a procedural thing. Cutting the interior lines first gives you just a better looking file in the end. So what I want to do is actually I want to select this and select it to be a different color. I'm just gonna make it this darker blue. There we go. So, and now our file's done. So we have our cut lines as one color. We have our cut lines that they're separated out into different colors. We have all of our just score or just plain drawn lines where it's a lighter powered cut. Those are all here. And then we have our engraved lines here, all the same color. And we're done. So what we want to do is we want to save our file now. We want to just save. So we'll save it to our Gravit account. I'm going to call this equal keychain. And then we want to download our file in a format that's good for laser cutting. So we want to export and then save it as the scalable vector graphics.svg file type. And then follow the procedures on your computer to save it. And as you can see, it's in my downloads folder. And we are all good. So thank you for following along, and the next part of this will be showing you how to actually do the laser cutting. So thanks for following along.